The last thing we have to do with our form is make sure we show a loading spinner whenever a user clicks on the button, and we also have to handle an error message if one occurs. We're going to take care of both these things very quickly in this video. We've already discussed both these systems in great detail with the last form we worked on, so we're just going to kind of throw the code down and get this portion complete. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is add 2 additional values to our state object. I'm going to add on error message as an empty string and loading as false. Next, whenever someone calls onSubmit, we're going to update that loading flag to true. So we'll say this.setState loading true. Then I'll find my catch statement down here. If an error occurs, we want to make sure that we take that error and we set it on our error message piece of state. So we'll say this.setState. Error message is going to come from error.message, like so. And then finally, after all this try catch block right here occurs, after all this happens, we're going to call setState one more time to turn our loading flag off no matter what. And we're also going to reset the value of the contribution amount as well at the same time, just to clear out the input on the form. So we'll say this.setState, loading is false, and value is empty string. So value right here is going to reset the form, and it's going to just clear out the number that we've placed inside there. And loading false is going to make sure that that button eventually stops spinning. So now that we've got these 2 pieces of state correctly taken care of, let's make sure that we actually hook them up inside of our render method. All right, so first we'll take care of our button. We need to make sure that we pass in the loading flag coming from this.state.loading. And that's pretty much all we have to do for loading. Now the error message is just a little bit more complicated. As a quick reminder, let's go back to our campaign new component and get a quick refresher on how we handled the error message over here. So if we scroll down a little bit, all right, so here's our message right here. We just placed the message component. We added the error property. We had the header, the content, and I think that was it. And then the other thing to keep in mind, and this was a real gotcha, was we needed to make sure that we marked the form component with that error property by using that double Boolean flip on the error message property. All right, so I'm going to make sure that we add this over as well. Let's take care of the form first. So here's the form. I'll add on error, and this is going to get exclamation, exclamation, this.state.error message. And then right above our button, we'll add on our message as well. And remember, this message is supposed to have error, header, and content. So message with error, header, and this can just be a string, and content, which will be this.state.error message, like so. Now just one last thing I want to check very quickly. Let's make sure that we did in fact add our import statement for message at the top of this file. So up at the top, I'm just going to confirm, yep, we did import message. So I think we're good in that regard. Okay, let's test out the spinner, and we're also going to test out the error handling as well. So I'm going to go back to my form. I'm going to refresh the page. And then for the first test here, I'm going to click on contribute. And it looks like it's throwing an error because we did not enter any amount in. So let's now add in 0.001. I'll contribute again. You'll notice we have the spinner properly. If I reject it now, the form gets reset. I see my error message and the spinner goes away. And then finally, if I add in 0.001 again and actually contribute this time, so I hit submit, we'll now wait for like those couple of seconds or so for this to actually be submitted. Now, one thing I'm already noticing right here is you'll notice that we are kind of forgetting to reset the error message state right here. So the user might be thinking that they are currently in an error, but in reality, we just didn't reset that state. So we can easily take care of that back inside of our onSubmit handler. We're just going to make sure that anytime a user attempts to resubmit the form, we clear out the existing value of error message. So when we set loading to true, we'll also reset error message to be an empty string. Okay, so it looks like that just went through. I've now got my incremented number of approvers, and I've got my campaign balance as well. So I think this form is working out pretty well. Let's take a pause right here and continue in the next section.